Ethan never expected to receive a royal message while eating cold rations on a quiet moon. He was just a human soldier, posted as a peacekeeper on the edge of the galaxy. The base was small. Nothing important ever happened there. The last real alert had been about a power outage in the water system. But that morning, a strange ship landed outside the base, surrounded by guards wearing golden armor and carrying long silver staffs. Everyone stared as the aliens stepped out. They were tall, glowing with faint light, their skin covered in fine patterns like stars. They were Zolari, one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Humans had always been careful around them. The Zolari had pride, tradition, and ancient rules. Their empire stretched across hundreds of systems. Nobody dared to offend them. The leader of the group, a woman with sharp eyes and silver hair, stepped forward. She held a scroll sealed with the royal crest. She looked around the room, then pointed at Ethan. "Are you the one they call Ethan?" Ethan slowly stood up, wiping his hands on his pants. Yeah, that's me. "You are summoned to the Zolari capital," she said. "The Princess Lyrni has issued a challenge. A duel." Everyone froze. The room fell silent. "A what?" Ethan asked, blinking. "A duel." The woman repeated. "You have been selected. If you accept, you will face Princess Lyrni in single combat." The base commander stepped in quickly. "Wait, there must be some mistake. He's just a regular soldier." "No mistake," the alien said. "He has been chosen." Ethan felt his stomach turn. "Why me?" "The princess believes no other challenge remains among the Zolari," she explained. "So she seeks an outsider. A human." Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't special. He didn't have high combat scores or secret powers. He wasn't even the best in his squad. But something about this felt bigger than him. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about honor. And if he refused, Earth might be seen as weak or afraid. That could start something worse than a duel. After a long talk with his commander, Ethan agreed. But he made one condition. The fight would be non-lethal. No killing. The aliens accepted. 2 days later, he stood inside a sleek alien ship flying faster than any human craft he'd ever seen. The walls glowed softly, and strange music played in the background. The Zolari treated him with respect, but not warmth. To them, he was still just a human, small, untested, and weak. Some whispered behind his back. He didn't understand their words, but the tone was clear. When they arrived at the capital, Ethan was stunned. The city floated above clouds. Towers of crystal shimmered under twin suns. Ships moved through the air like birds, smooth and silent, everywhere he looked. Alien life walked, some with wings, others with glowing eyes or smooth, silver skin. They took him to a grand hall where hundreds of aliens had gathered. In the center stood Princess Lyrni. She was taller than him, dressed in ceremonial armor that reflected the lights above. Her hair was dark blue, tied back with silver bands. Her eyes were calm but sharp. She didn't smile. She simply stepped forward and nodded. "You are the human?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said, standing as straight as he could. "I have fought all worthy warriors in my empire," she said. "None have moved me. None have challenged me. So I look to you." Ethan looked at her carefully. She wasn't being cruel. She was being honest. To her, this was not a game. It was a test, a search, maybe even a cry for something more. "Why offer yourself as the prize?" Ethan asked. The question surprised the crowd. Some gasped. Others whispered again. But Lyrni didn't look angry. "Because I choose my path," she said. "And I want someone who can meet me in battleland in strength of heart." Ethan didn't know what to say. This was more serious than he imagined. He nodded slowly. "Then I accept your challenge." The arena was set for the next day. It was round and wide, surrounded by thousands of watching eyes. Ethan wore simple armor and carried the staff they gave him. It was light, made of strong alien metal. The rules were clear. No death, no serious injury, and no help from anyone else. As he stepped into the arena, he saw Lyrni already waiting. She looked calm, focused. "Are you ready, human?" she asked. Ethan smiled slightly. "Ready as I'll ever be." The signal rang out, and the duel began. Lyrini moved faster than anyone he'd faced. Her staff came down hard, and he barely blocked it in time. The force pushed him back. She didn't hold back, and the crowd roared with excitement. But Ethan didn't try to match her power. He used speed and timing. Every time she attacked, he dodged or deflected. He looked for patterns. For openings, he remembered his training. Stay calm, stay smart. Minutes passed. The crowd grew quieter. They had expected a short fight, but Ethan held his ground. He didn't try to win by force. He fought with patience. He watched Lyrini closely, reading not just her moves but her face, her breathing, her emotion. And something changed in that moment. The princess, who had fought so many, saw someone not trying to defeat her but trying to understand her. They circled each other, both breathing hard. The fight was far from over, but something deeper had begun. Ethan could feel the weight of every eye in the arena. The crowd was quiet now, not out of boredom, but surprise. A human was holding his own against their warrior princess. It had never happened before. Lyrini came at him again, her staff spinning. Fast, Ethan stepped to the side, blocked low, then twisted to avoid her next strike. The duel was like a dance. He didn't move like a powerful fighter. He moved with control, careful steps, and sharp eyes. He watched her closely, not just her hands and feet, but her thoughts too, her breathing, her rhythm, her pauses. She was fast. She was strong. But she was also trying to read him, and she couldn't, for a few moments. The two just circled each other. "Why don't you attack?" she asked. Ethan gave a small shrug. "Because rushing in is the fastest way to lose." Lyrini frowned. "You fight differently than my people. Maybe that's why you call me," he said. They clashed again, staffs hitting, sparks flying. The weapons hummed with energy every time they connected. Both of them were sweating now. Lyrini's strikes were strong, but Ethan's defense was steady. She tried different angles, faster attacks, surprise footwork. But Ethan kept up, always just a second ahead. The crowd slowly started cheering, not just for her, but for both of them. Even some of the nobles who had doubted him now leaned forward, eyes wide as the fight went on. Ethan began to feel something strange. He wasn't just trying to win. He was trying to understand her. She fought with fire, but also pain. She wasn't just testing him, she was looking for something. When they paused again, Ethan spoke. "You're not just doing this for tradition, are you?" Lyrini looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You're tired of being treated like a symbol." He continued, "Like a prize." For a second, her eyes softened. Just for a second. Then she charged again, faster than before. Their staffs hit again and again. Ethan dodged to the side, slipped on the smooth ground, and barely rolled away in time. She followed, striking down, but he blocked with both hands, the shock running through his arms. He jumped back and tried something new. He feinted left, then moved right, bringing his staff around in a wide arc. It caught her off guard and pushed her back. The crowd gasped. For the first time, she was on the defensive. "Clever," she said. "You adapt." Ethan breathed hard. "I have to. You're really good." She gave the smallest nod of respect. They fought again, this time faster than before. Both had bruises now. Both were tired. The sun above was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the arena. But the duel wasn't just physical anymore. It was becoming something else, a meeting of two minds, two ways of life, two people from different worlds trying to understand each other. And something in the way she looked at him now had changed. No longer just a challenger, no longer a stranger. He had earned her attention, maybe even a little of her trust. Then it happened. They both leapt forward, staffs raised. Their weapons struck at the same moment. A bright flash of energy burst between them, sending both flying backward. The crowd rose to their feet. Ethan landed hard but rolled to his knees. Lyrini hit the ground but stood fast. Their staffs spark cracked from the force. They looked at each other, both breathing heavily. The judges watching from the royal stand spoke quietly to one another. Then one stood and raised a hand. "Enough," he called. "Both warriors have proven themselves. but only one has shown a path not seen before. The judge turned to Lyrini. Princess, do you yield? Lyrini looked at Ethan. He stood tall, tired but unbroken. Slowly. She nodded. I yield. A wave of silence moved through the arena. Then a great roar of approval followed. Ethan blinked, surprised. Wait, did I win? Yes, she said, stepping closer. But not because you beat me. Because you showed me something new. He didn't know what to say. Part of him had expected anger. Or maybe cold silence. But her tone wasn't bitter. It was calm. Proud. Honest. The crowd bowed to the tradition. The duel had ended. And by Zalari law, the promise made before the fight stood, she was now his prize. But neither of them looked happy about that part. Later, in a private chamber, Ethan sat in silence while attendants brought food and drink. He felt strange. He had fought with all his heart, not to win a princess but to prove himself worthy. Now that it was over, he didn't know what to feel. A soft voice broke the silence. You didn't come here to claim a prize, Lyrini said from the doorway. He looked up. She had changed out of her armor into royal robes. Her hair was loose now, falling over her shoulders. No, he said honestly. I came because saying no might have caused more trouble. But when I saw you fight, I saw someone who wasn't just looking for a winner. You're right, she said, walking in. I was searching, not for someone stronger but someone who sees me. Ethan nodded slowly. And now, she sat across from him. Now, I don't want to be anyone's prize, and I don't want you to feel like a thief. He smiled. I never wanted to take anything. But if you want to walk beside someone, not behind or ahead, just side by side, I'd be honored. She studied him for a moment. Then she gave the smallest, realest smile he had seen from her all day. Then let us see what comes next. Not by tradition, not by rule, but by choice. The next morning, Ethan woke early. The light of the twin suns spilled gently into the chamber where he had stayed. Outside, the palace gardens glowed with soft colors. Alien flowers with long petals and sparkling leaves moved gently in the breeze. Birds with bright feathers sang strange songs. Ethan felt the weight of the previous day still on his shoulders. The duel was over. But the meaning was not, he had won. But what had he really won? The princess's promise or something deeper? He was lost in thought when the door opened quietly. Lyrini stepped inside. She wore simple clothes now, not the heavy armor of the warrior princess. Her eyes were calm but serious. Come, she said. There is much you do not understand about my world. Curious. Ethan followed her through long halls decorated with ancient paintings and statues. The palace was a blend of old and new, a place where history lived alongside technology. Beyond anything on Earth, they walked until they reached a room filled with holograms and maps. Lyrini pointed to a star system far from the capital. This is Zalari homeworld, she said, a place of great beauty and danger. Ethan leaned closer. Why show me this? Because, she said, to understand me, you must understand where I come from. My people are proud but trapped by tradition. I was raised to be a warrior, a symbol. But I never chose this path. She turned to him. The duel was not just a test of strength. It was a way to break free. Ethan listened carefully. He felt a new respect for the princess. She was more than a fighter. She was a person searching for freedom. What happens now? He asked. Lyrini smiled softly. Now, we learn to trust each other. Days passed, and Ethan stayed in the palace. He trained with the Zalari warriors, learning their moves and ways. Lyrini taught him about her culture, her fears, and hopes in turn. He shared stories of Earth, its people, its struggles, its dreams. Their friendship grew. It was not an easy path. Some nobles watched with suspicion. They whispered that a human should never be near the royal family. But Lyrini stood strong, defending Ethan with quiet courage. One evening, as the twin suns set, they sat together in the gardens. The stars began to appear, lighting the sky like tiny fires. Do you believe the stars are watching us? Ethan asked. Lyrini laughed lightly. Perhaps. Or maybe they are waiting for us to find our own way. Ethan looked at her. I never thought a duel could lead to this. Sometimes, she said, the greatest battles are not fought with weapons, but with trust. Their peace was broken when news arrived of a threat to the capital. A group of rebels opposed to the royal family planned to strike. Their goal was to use the duel as a reason to divide the people, to claim the princess was weak. Ethan and Lyrney, prepared, they knew this fight would be different, not a duel, but a battle for the future of the Zolari Empire. Together, they stood before the palace gates. Ethan felt the strength of the princess beside him, not as a prize, but as a partner. The rebels came in force, but they were met with a new kind of unity. Zolari warriors fought alongside humans. Strength met strategy, courage met hope. The battle was fierce, but in the end, the rebels were defeated. The capital was safe. After the fight, Lyrney spoke to the people. We stand not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. Today, we have shown that together, we are stronger. The crowd cheered. Ethan felt a pride deeper than any victory in the arena. In the days that followed, the bond between Ethan and Lyrney deepened. They planned not only for peace, but for a new future, one where old rules would be challenged and new paths created. The princess was no longer just a symbol. She was a leader, and Ethan was no longer just a soldier. He was her companion in a journey that would change the galaxy. The days after the battle brought a strange calm to the Zolari capital. The skies were clear, and the usual hum of the city felt softer, like it was breathing easier. Ethan and Lyrney walked through the streets, feeling the eyes of the people. On them, some curious, some hopeful, others still doubtful. But Ethan noticed something new. The tension between the Zolari and the humans was shifting. Whispers turned to quiet conversations. Suspicion slowly gave way to respect, and he knew that this was just the beginning. One afternoon, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the city, Lyrney spoke softly. The court is divided. Some see you as an outsider, a threat to tradition. Ethan nodded. I expected that, but you stand with me, because you have shown me what it means to be strong without violence, to be brave without pride. They both looked at the horizon, where the twin suns began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. There is more to do, she said. Old laws bind us. Some want to keep things as they were. Others want change. Then we have to show them a better way, Ethan said. Not with words only, but with actions. Over the next weeks, they worked to bring people together. Ethan met with Zolari leaders, learning their customs, their fears. Lyrney used her voice to speak for those who felt unheard, the young, the poor, the women who were not allowed to fight or lead. But the hardest part came when a group of nobles openly challenged Lyrney's choices. They demanded she return to tradition, to accept the rules of marriage and politics that had controlled her for centuries. One evening, Ethan found Lyrney alone in the palace gardens. She looked tired, her eyes shadowed with worry. They want to control you, he said gently. I have lived my life under their rules, she replied. But now, I want to choose my own path, not just for me, but for my people. He reached out and took her hand. You don't have to do this alone. Lyrney squeezed his hand, a small smile returning. Then let us face this together. The next day, in a grand hall filled with the most powerful nobles, Lyrney stood with Ethan by her side. She spoke clearly and with strength. I am the princess of the Zolari Empire, she said, but I am also a person with hopes and dreams. I challenge the old ways that bind us and ask for a future where we are free to choose. The room fell silent. Some nobles looked shocked, others angry. But Ethan noticed many faces soften, eyes filled with new understanding. One elder spoke. If this is your will, princess, then we must see if the people agree. A vote was called. It was close, but in the end, the majority supported Lyrney's call for change. Outside, the crowd cheered. A new day had begun. In the weeks that followed, changes swept through the empire. Laws that once limited women's roles were revised. New schools opened to teach all children, regardless of status. And alliances grew stronger between Zolari and humans. Ethan and Lyrney grew closer, not as victor and prize, but as partners. They shared hopes for peace and a better future. One quiet night, under the stars, Ethan asked, "Do you ever regret the duel?" Lerny smiled, her eyes bright. "No, it was the moment I found a true companion." And Ethan knew that together, they could face whatever the galaxy had in store. The peace in the Zolari capital was fragile. Rumors of unrest reached Ethan and Lerny like whispers carried on the wind. Some nobles still resented the changes the princess had begun. Others feared that the alliance with humans was a mistake. Beneath the surface, tension grew. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Ethan stood on the palace balcony. The city lights blinked like stars below. Lerny joined him, her face serious. "There are forces working against us," she said. "They want to undo everything we have built." Ethan frowned. "What do they plan?" "To strike at the heart of the empire," she said, "to remove me from power." The next day, their worst fears came true. A group of rebels launched an attack on the palace. Their goal was clear: to capture the princess and break the alliance. The alarm sounded. The palace guards rushed to defend the walls. Ethan and Lerny stood side by side, ready for the fight. The rebels were fierce, but unorganized. Ethan used human tactics, quick strikes, flanking maneuvers, surprise attacks. Lerny fought with the skill of a true warrior, her staff flashing in the dim light. Together, they moved like a single force, balanced and unstoppable. Amid the chaos, Ethan spotted a group sneaking toward the royal chambers. Without hesitation, he ran ahead, blocking their path. "You won't take her," he said firmly. The rebels hesitated, but pressed forward. Ethan fought bravely, pushing them back. Soon, Lerny arrived, joining the fight. With her strength and his strategy, they cleared the way. After hours of battle, the rebels were defeated. The palace stood strong. The people of the capital cheered, seeing their leaders fight for them not just with words, but with courage. In the quiet that followed, Ethan and Lerny stood together, tired but unbroken. "We survived," Ethan said, "because we stand united," Lerny replied. Their bond grew stronger, built on trust and shared trials. They were no longer just a princess and a soldier. They were partners facing a new future. The Empress, the ruler of the Zolari Empire, called a gathering. She praised Ethan's bravery and declared that the alliance with Earth would grow stronger. Lerny was given the freedom to choose her own path, not as a prize to be won, but as a leader with power and respect. The people watched as the two stood before them, side by side, a symbol of hope and change. Ethan knew that their journey was only beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and wonders. But with Lerny by his side, he felt ready for whatever lay ahead. The day had come for Ethan and Lerny to speak before both their peoples. The great hall was filled with diplomats, leaders, and citizens from Earth and the Zolari Empire. Banners hung from the ceiling, showing the symbols of both worlds side by side. The air buzzed with quiet excitement and hope. Ethan stood beside Lerny, feeling the weight of their journey on his shoulders. But he also felt pride not just for himself, but for what they had built together. When the crowd settled, Lerny stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. "Today marks a new beginning," she said. "We have faced old rules, broken traditions, and found a path forward together, not as enemies, not as conquerors, but as equals." She looked at Ethan. "He came to me as a challenger, but he stayed as a partner. Together, we have shown that trust and respect can change even the oldest empires." Then Ethan spoke. His voice was steady, carrying the hopes of Earth. "I never imagined a duel would lead to this, but it did. It taught me that strength is not only in battle, but in understanding, in choosing peace over war, in standing together." The crowd listened, many nodding. Some eyes even glistened with tears after their speeches. Leaders from both sides signed a new alliance treaty. It promised cooperation, peace, and the sharing of knowledge and culture. Outside, the twin suns shone brightly over the city. People cheered, children waved flags, and music filled the air. Lerny turned to Ethan. "This is only the start. Together, we will face the challenges of the galaxy." He smiled, and together, we will build a future no one thought possible. As they walked through the streets, hand in hand, people came forward to greet them not as princess and soldier, but as friends and leaders. The story of their duel, once seen as a contest for a prize, had become a story of unity. To worlds, once apart, now joined by courage, respect, and hope. And in the vast galaxy, their bond became a shining example, proof that even the greatest challenges could be met with kindness and strength. The royal alien princess and the human warrior had not only changed their own lives, but the future of many. And that future was bright.